Here we go. Okay, so today is Friday, May 26th, 2023. My name is David Pyle, and I'm interviewing E.J. Walton at the Rocky Mountain Regional Veteran Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado. So, as part of the Remembering Our Veterans program. So, E.J., let's start off with your childhood. Can you tell me about where you were born and where you grew up, and a little bit about your early life?
Tell you what, I was born in 1937 in Como, Mississippi, which I think maybe only had a population of 2. But I was only there for 1 year. And as minorities were moving from the south to the north to get a better lifestyle, my mother, bless her heart, she and my father migrated to Chicago. We ended up in the Otterby Wells projects of Chicago. And it was kind of amazing because my young mother, she got to go to school instead of picking cotton in Sardis, Mississippi, where she was born. And when we got to Chicago, my mother 5'2", my father 6'3", my mother opened up a beauty salon. She was a fashion designer. She put on fashion shows, and she was a singer. Now, with that in mind, my mother was busy. So she told the 6 of us, I will take care of you until you're 8. At 8, you'll learn to cook, clean, wash, iron, sew, and you will not allow anyone else to do what you can do yourself. So I've been practicing for a long time, well, 86 years now, doing my thing. But when we got to Chicago, she was like the leader in the community, because if a mother had a daughter that was having her first period, they come to my mother. If they had other issues, they come to my mother. So when other parents were saying, okay, kids, you have to go in the bedroom because adults are speaking, she said, oh, no, 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 not my children. They will not suffer from ignorance. So we sat around to hear adult conversations. And her thing is, there's no excuse for ignorance. If you don't know, ask. And the other thing, when you come in this house, don't be swaying from side to side and talking slang. No, we were not allowed to do that. And so it's kind of amazing because I didn't realize that I was in the military, didn't even know it as a kid. So my mother and father divorced when I was 15.
Okay.
So my brothers and sisters were 2 years apart. So you can imagine how young my family was. But she fed him dinner every night, which means I didn't know what a divorced family looked like. So in later years, I decided my father was smart enough to know that the dumbest woman is smarter than the smartest man. So we didn't have this animosity of my mother talking about my father in a negative way or vice versa. So with that said, I, as the lead son, I joined the Cub Scouts, and it led me to, in high school, Civil Air Patrol. I was second in command of the Civil Air Patrol, but I had this thing that I couldn't talk. I was shy. And because of me being shy, I ditched a very important class called civics. We were to write a report, but then we had to verbalize that report. I couldn't do it. So I ditched the class for 48 days. So you can imagine when my mother and father got the call your son may be either suspended or kicked out of high school. Well, Miss McDermott, a white teacher in a all pretty brown minority school, said, we can't kick him out. We can't suspend him. He has a fear of public speaking. Why would we want to punish him for that? She said, I'm recommending that we keep him in school, and I'm going to take that class away from him. So I knew I was going to get my butt whipped for letting my family down, but I was happy that I don't have to speak again. So Miss McDermott says, and the principal agreed not to kick me out or suspend me. So Miss McDermott says, I want you to come into class. I'm going to tell you what the new class will be. So I said, happy. I'm saying, oh, I don't have to speak. Drama. So I had to maintain a positive attitude as a kid.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, I can't speak. How could, you know? So Miss McDermott, bless her heart, a white teacher in a minority school, said, I'm going to give you this album. Has anybody ever heard of Deo, oh Deo? But she said, take this album home. I want you to listen to the diction, listen to his every word. And so 3 months later, I was selected as an actor in Romeo and Juliet. And after I got out of, kids were coming up to me saying, I didn't know you could act. Miss McDermott saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. That's why today I would like to see the politicians that are getting paid like they're getting paid take the salaries that the teachers are getting paid and let them live on the teacher's salary. Because this teacher could have ignored me. And again, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And from that day forward, I've been running my mouth. And when I see people that deny or told that they can't do something, I let them know. Number one, if somebody is putting you down or bullying you, that's because they see you up here and they're uncomfortable, so they want to bring you down to their level. Don't fall for that, because they have a low self-esteem and they are the ones that is inferior. So that's been my mission from a kid to right now, to my veterans. But then, because I missed 48 days, I had to stay in school an extra year because I didn't graduate with my class. I did have to make up. But that was, I mean, after my mother and father, I give Miss McDermott credit for everything that I am.
Sounds like you had a really fine upbringing there, particularly with your mother and Miss McDermott as well. It's amazing how a teacher can have a profound effect like that on your life, huh?
Think about it. The teachers spend 6 to 8 hours a day. They spend almost as much waking hour time as the parents. So here they're in a position to form the life of a young, impressionable human being, to be a better human being. So I survived that. And then I was at a vocational high school, Dunbar Vocational High School. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was going to be an aviation mechanic. So that's what I took. And then toward graduation, you know, you have consultation and stuff.
Sure.
They told me that Dunbar Vocational High School was not an accredited high school. They wait till the last minute when I'm preparing to graduate to tell me that. I was so disappointed. They said, you have to go to an all-white high school because, see, we were working on reciprocating engines. But the white high school was working on J-57 jet engines. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? I don't want to go 2 more years of high school. I've done 5. So this is where I think everything is preordained to happen the way it happens when it happens, because Ford Motor Company had just instituted a minority program hiring minorities. They interviewed about 60 of us, and I was one of 3 that they selected. And it was the Ford Motor Jet Aircraft Division in Cicero, Illinois, and I was a turret lathe operator trainee. I was making more money than my father. So that, I mean, that was so incredible, except Boeing Aircraft in California got the contract, which means I was out of a job. So I said, get that. I'm not going in any McDonald's or whatever. So I joined the Air Force, 1958. And think about it. I was in the Civil Air Patrol for 5 years, second in command. So, and my parents, it was like a military. So when I went to basic training, that was a piece of cake for me.
Yeah.
So I spent the basic training, and then they decided that, EJ, we're going to send you to Biloxi, Mississippi. That is as far south as you can go because the next is the Gulf of Mexico. Now that was 1958. Emmett Till was killed in the mid-50s. So I'm thinking, I'm down south. I wonder what that's going to be like. But I said, hey, I'm in the military, so everything's cool, I thought. So when I got down to Biloxi, Mississippi, leaving Texas, going through Louisiana, that was my first encounter of color over here, white over there. And what was interesting is the white guys went in the colored bathroom. They didn't like it. And somebody called the cops, so we had to get on the bus and leave. But I get to Biloxi, Mississippi, Keesler Air Force Base. They said, EJ, we looked at your history, and because you were second in command of Civil Air Patrol, we want to make you squad leader. Wow, I was excited.
Sure.
Except the first month, I ended up coming in my barracks. I had a room to myself and the other 16 to a room. There was this black sign on my door that said, nigger, go home. And I'm looking at that. Now, our squad was in the top 5, so it could have been anybody. But I called the guys out. I said, hey, 11 o'clock, they're sitting on the floor. I showed them this image. And I said, all of a sudden, I just calmed down. And I said to them, this is a court-martial offense. Now, number one, this black face is not indicative of this pretty brown skin. Number two, if you have a problem with me, assuming it was somebody in my squad, I thought it was somebody from another squad, be man enough to come to me. So I say, I'm tearing this up. And if anyone in this squad did this, it's a court martial offense. Well, the white guys from the north, Philadelphia, New York, they wanted to kill somebody. But my fellow brothers thought I was being an Uncle Tom. So I dismissed them. And about 2 in the morning, so we get up at 4:30, calisthenics and inspection and stuff. So I'm trying to figure out who's knocking on my door. So I asked, who is it? But I probably cursed a little bit. I was in my 20s, you
Right.
know. So Lehman and Mark, Alabama and Georgia, came in my room. I said, what the? Again, a few curse words. They said, we did that. And my mind was trying to wake up, but what? I said, sit on this bed, because I'm not getting out of this bed. What are you talking about? We did that, black face. I say, a lot of cursing. Why would you jeopardize your Air Force career by doing something as stupid as this? We were mad at you. I said, mad at me about what? Well, one of them had a girlfriend coming up for the weekend, and I had him on KP. Yeah, you put us on KP, and this, I said, wait a minute, you would jeopardize your Air Force career for something as stupid as that? Don't you know you could have come to me and I would have taken your KP? Yeah, but you don't understand. Okay, I'm listening. We don't tell or ask black folks nothing. We tell black folks. A lot of cursing. Let me tell you something. I want you all to get out of my room. I've got you by the balls. If you so much as twitch, you will be court-martialed. We were there to train to blind type 65 words a minute, because in Clark Air Force Base, where I was assigned, we intercepted Morse code. So that was a 7-month training period. Those two guys were like my bodyguards. They followed me. And this is the part of the story where I blame the parents. At the end of 7 months, they came to me and said, EJ, we love you, but we can't tell our parents about you. And that's when I decided kids love their father and mother, and so they believe in what they have to say. And so I decided there was no reason for me to dislike or be upset about the kids. I transferred that to the parents, because they're the ones that have the most influence in the formative years. But at any rate, I often wondered if they learned something, if they were better humans to other humans through that experience. Now, the one thing I'll leave with, I never told any of the other 14 veterans what had transpired.
Right.
So that was my military.
So this was in the late 50s, early 60s, right?
I was in the Air Force from 1958 to 1962.
So the whole civil rights movement and everything was really just sort of really coming full bloom at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So this is, and you were in Biloxi, you were in that period as well?
Yeah, Biloxi.
Much of that?
Yeah, I left Biloxi and ended up in Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. And again, we were doing secret at that time, blind typing, 65 words a minute, intercepting Morse code. And then we had the people with top security clearance, down digesting,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But then I left there in 1960, and I want to back up a little bit. When I was 9, 10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
Chicago is flat. I used to draw pencil sketches of the mountains, the streams, the trees, the bluffs, never knowing it was preordained that I was going to end up in a mountainous community. So I got discharged 62. I had a 52 DeSoto. I drove it to Chicago. Well, during the 2 years I was in Air Force Base in Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
I was in the Air Defense Command Corral. So we flew around the country singing. So I didn't have to do KP.
Yeah.
And I was a printing pressman. So I got to Chicago, and I was in Colorado Springs, and the people were open, friendly, blue skies and all of that. I got to Chicago June 1st or 2nd. I turned around July 1st. I said, I'm going back to Colorado. So when I got back here, I said, oh, what am I going to do? I said, well, wait a minute. I was trained to be a printing pressman, and I saw an ad, City and County of Denver. So I said, shoot, let me check that out. And I got in there, and they hired me just like that. Unfortunately, when I came my first day on the job, all the white boys were over in the corner. They didn't want to talk to me. And I'm thinking, they don't pay my salary. I could care less.
Yeah.
So they started giving me these jobs. I don't know if you ever heard of a paper mat. That's where you have to scrub off except for the image, and you can only do 10 copies at a time. So they started giving me those kind of labor-intensive jobs. So I was single, so I'd come in late, come in early, because they all were all married. And so they'd leave at 5 and I'd stay. And then the mayor's office, police department, fire department, Denver General Hospital, they started requesting me to do their rush jobs because I'd sleep overnight to get it done. So 5 years later, they promoted me to assistant foreman. 2 of the white boys resigned. And I said, I don't care. I can hire who I want. So then in 1969, Xerox came by, and City and County was spending probably 40,000 plus throughout the whole city with Xerox. And Xerox said, we want to talk to EJ. And Howard Linder, my director, said, wait a minute, we're spending all this money. You trying to steal my man? Well, November 1969, Xerox came back. We want to talk to EJ. So Howard Linder decided, well, maybe I shouldn't interfere with a potential opportunity. And January 21st, I was the first person of color hired by Xerox. And it's kind of funny because when I went to the office for my first meeting, everybody was saying, oh, Mr. Walton, we're so happy to have you, and this and that. And I looked at them, I said, hey, wait a minute, I'm from Chicago. If you think it, you can say it to me. I'm not intimidated. And it's like, okay, we can hate him if we want to. I said, so for 14 years, it was the most incredible experience. And it goes back to how my mother and father raised us and everything. We were into humans. We were into people. So when I came home in 73, all my stuff was gone. My 2 kids were gone. And I wanted to hurt somebody. Luckily, I didn't find them. But 1975, I got word that they were in San Diego. So I wasn't quite as angry. I was, matter of fact, happy to see the kids. So I got them back to Denver, and then my ex-wife said she wanted them back, and I sent them back, and that was the last time I saw them until 2018. But the ironic thing is when I was ready to quit Xerox because I was an angry human being, and Xerox said, please come back, because I disappeared for 3 weeks. And I, I said, oh, I said, you know, y'all need to fire me. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And they said, calm down. We're going to give you a new sales manager and give you a new territory. And it's going to be a big territory. It'll help you mend. And I'm thinking, okay. Vail, Breckenridge, Salida, Buena Vista. The only place I had been prior to that was Red Rocks. I have a fear of heights. So I'm saying, maybe you guys need to fire me because I've only been to Red Rocks. I don't know nothing about the mountains. I have a fear of heights. So they said, Bob, I'll never forget him. He said, EJ, you're angry. Calm down. I'll go up there with you. I'll even drive you up there. So I took another week off and I said, okay. Well, before the Eisenhower Tunnel, it was over the pass, Loveland Pass. Now, keep in mind, I'd only been to Red Rocks. And Bob was driving and there's no guardrails. And I'm saying, hey man, you better drive closer to the mountainside over here. He said, EJ, calm down. So I went and, I loved it. I'm saying, wow, I was drawing this as a kid. And so anyway, 2 weeks went by like in 1 second. He said, EJ, you got to go by yourself. So I didn't go for that first week. I had to think about that. But I decided to drive. And can you imagine? I'm driving 2 miles an hour. That's an exaggeration, but the people behind me were lined up. I know they were calling me a few names, and I would have called myself a few names. So I ended up getting into Vail, and I said, okay, what am I going to do? Well, Vail was just growing in the 70s, and so everybody embraced me. The first thing I said, let me join the Rotary Club, because when the new businesses were coming up, they'd automatically join the Rotary Club. So all of a sudden, people started calling me, hey, Captain Xerox, come over here. We want to buy this. Well, we rented the machines in those days. And I was carrying contracts in my pocket, walking down the street, and people would stop me. And then, so I fell in love with the mountains, still a fear. So they started calling me Captain Xerox up there. Then I went to Salida, and I guess they hadn't seen many pretty brown skin because they were looking through the windows as I was walking down the street, and I'd be waving like a politician. So anyway, I was there for 3 years, but it was an incredible experience for me. And now I'll leave this alone, but Schleifer and Company was one of the major real estate companies up there. They said, EJ, take off that tie and stuff, man. Wear a turtleneck. You're in the mountains now. I say, hey, Xerox says this is the dress code, and I'm not changing unless y'all buy 1,000 machines. Then maybe I'll take you up on it. So, which they didn't. But I started singing with the Roger Carr Trio on the weekends at the Vail Village Inn, and they partied hard up there. I said, I can't hang with you. I'm not into drinking, smoking, and they were marijuana parties and stuff. I said, y'all have a good time. I'm going to bed. So that lasted for 3 years, and then I came back down here, and I was stolen away from Beacons Moving and Storage because one of the Xerox salesmen became vice president of Beacons in Orange County, California. So he wanted to upgrade the image of Beacons because, they're kind of casual. And so they hired, Jones was his name. He hired 34 ex-Xerox sales rep in 34 major cities. And my introduction, I go in there and they were against me. I mean, they tried to, but anyway, I called Byron. I say, Byron, these people are backwards. He said, EJ, calm down. I'm catching the next jet. I'll be there in the morning. When Byron got through with those folks, the managers, their faces were red and they were apologizing to me. And after that, it was beautiful. So I've had 8 careers, and I've always been the first person of color in all of those careers, selling gelato, furniture, everything. But that's kind of been my history. And I ended up getting sick in 2011. I was volunteering at the Senior Sports Services, and my bowel came out of my intestines. So they took me to St. Joseph's just across the street there. And from that, I decided I was going to volunteer helping veterans to do what's in their heart, not what somebody else indicate they should do. But that takes me up to 2011.
We've covered a pretty broad range there. There's questions even I have about back to your service, if you would. Can we go back there for a moment? Would you mind?
Oh, I'd be happy
And
to.
I'd like to know a little bit more about that. One thing you mentioned, I think, was that you were part of some chorale that you would, when you were in the Air Force and you sang with a group.
Yes, we flew around to all Air Defense Command chorale bases, and we would sing to the airmen, then the NCO, and then the captains. And I mean, and that's all a cappella.
Right. How large a group was it?
32.
Is that right?
We had, I think, 12 ladies, and the rest were men.
That must have been a kind of a fun experience. Why wasn't it?
Oh, it was. I thought I was a rock star in my own time.
Well, no, I would think that would be great as far as just that gets in your blood. I think back to when you're in high school and and learning Nat King Cole and playing in Shakespeare, doing all that, and just the whole performance thing. Like I'm sure that was a great experience for you as well.
It's incredible. And
so has music played a large part in your life?
Thank you. Starting with my mother.
Okay.
You remember those? I think they call them 78.
I do. Sure.
If I could find that, but Eartha Kitt, does that ring a bell?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. That's the kind of music that she performed, and I would listen to her. And again, and this is a side story. In the projects, they were doing doo-wops and stuff like that. I was singing classical. I thought I was going to be a classical conductor. So they say, you're kind of weird. You didn't fit in, but I just like Mario Lanza.
Sure.
His voice just got me. And I remember when the Chicago, you ever heard of the Gong Show?
Sure.
Well, Chicago had this program. It was similar, but it was the Harvest Moon Festival. So I'd been practicing Nat King Cole song. Love is a many splendid thing. And so I felt pretty comfortable. So I joined, but I'm telling everybody in the neighborhood that I'm going to be downtown on this show. So I get there, and it may have been two or three families two or three minorities besides myself, and like 50 families with the kids and so forth. And so I get up there to sing my song, and I gave the piano player the sheet music, and I start singing, and he was playing in another key. I did not know anything about transposing music, and they gonged me right away. So I had to go back to the projects, and everybody's asking, "Oh, how did you do? How did you?" I was most embarrassed,
Yeah,
but I always loved ballads like, you know, Nat King Cole and all that whole thing. So it didn't deter me, but I was determined that I love singing. So I, I learned to get music transposed in the right key.
sure.
And I prefer to sing a cappella though, because that's where the Air Force, I did that for 2 years and
Sure.
I just loved it. So, yeah, life, as my mother would say, son, don't be a follower. Learn to look beyond the moment because life is going to be here, it's going to be there. But if you learn to look beyond the moment, you'll get back to where you need to be. And so after 4 different surgeries, sleeping in my car, 2 homeless
So
situations.
tell us about that. Do you mind speaking about that as far as that period of your life when that was taking place?
Well, I ended up losing my job, quite frankly, and not being able to pay bills. I was living with a friend, and he evicted me, and so I was sleeping in my car, and that was a short period of time. And I said, I've got to do something. Matter of fact, I'm going to write a book, and in writing books, if I may share this with you, people typically acknowledge their parents, friends, and so forth. Well, I was laying down in the bed and I said, that's good, but I want to do something different. And what I decided to do, and I told my daughter this, she said, Daddy, that's genius. I've never seen a book like that. But anybody that has come into my life, short period, long period, they will get to do a paragraph. The title will be called My Vision of EJ. And I told the lady that got me to St. Joseph's Hospital about that. I didn't see her till 2 years ago. She took me to Outback Steakhouse, and she said, EJ, I want to be the first one. She wrote 5 pages. She was telling me about this at dinner. She started crying. She said, I said, why didn't you tell me this when I was in the hospital? She said, EJ, I didn't think you would believe me. I've got the documentation over there. After the interview, I'll leave a copy. I've never experienced anything like that. But my life I know why I'm on this planet, and that's to give whatever I have. But go
So
ahead.
that's what I want to go a little deeper into, this period, maybe when you were homeless, whatever, I mean, it sounded like there was a rough period that you were going through. What part did your faith life play in that?
That's kind of interesting. My mother used to read the Bible to us all the time.
Yeah.
But that part that says, look beyond the moment is the thing that I relied on. I ended up going into 2 shelters. In that first one, I was in for 2 years. And I ended up, people were getting diarrhea and different things. And so I ended up taking over the kitchen because my mother taught me, uh-uh, you will be hygiene aware. And so people kind of weren't liking me too much because I say, hey, you just come off the street. Did you take a shower? You better get out of those clothes. You're going to be serving food. And we didn't have a dishwasher. So they'd spray cold water and call that clean. I said, no, no, no. I want to see your hands red. And so after the diarrhea started dissipating, after the roaches disappeared, they said, EJ, we hated your little black, but we love you because everybody was getting sick.
Right.
And I said, hey, I have a certain standard that my mother taught me, and I'm not changing the standard. So anyway, I had a counselor with the VA, and they got me in the house. I mean, they got me an apartment, my first apartment,
The VA.
and then I had a setback, and I ended up at Samaritan House, but that was only like 3 months.
Okay.
And I got my first apartment. And so I've been in the HUD VASH program since, well, I've graduated, as you'll see some of the information. But anyway, faith, I've always believed that there's a greater power. But I don't go to church to get that belief. I go to my apartment. So that's where faith comes in for me. And so I've transferred that since 2011 into helping veterans fall in love with themselves. And so I volunteer wherever I can. I mean, they know me all over the VA here. I volunteer with Volunteers of America.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteer with Soldiers Angels mobile food event. I used to volunteer with Bill Daniels Veteran Services Center. I cut that off. And this is where I am. And I've got more clothes now than I had when I was at Xerox and I could afford to pay $200 for a suit. Because everywhere I volunteer, the ladies would say, ooh, try this jacket on, try this on, try these shoes. I got 30 pair of shoes. Even at Xerox, I only had maybe 5 at the most, So volunteering for me is the greatest gift that I can share with another human being. But it always comes back in different forms for me. I'd say to people, don't follow me, follow your heart.
I'm going to show the camera that. Hold that up for a second here. That's
Oh,
it.
yes.
Can you get a shot of that? That's like,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really important, I think. But so I'm thinking that there must have been a point when in terms of, you talk about falling in love with yourself, and having to make some kind of internal decision there at some point in your life. That, is this something that sort of slowly evolved, or is that something that you really came to in a major way for yourself?
That's a great point. May I share something with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
How should I?
well, if you can, go ahead and just hold it up in front of you. Like
Oh, okay.
something like that.
Can you scoot forward just an inch?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that better? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And hold it up. Which camera should we hold it up to? Is it this one?
Close one, yeah.
Yeah. So before we start that, let's do a segue here into this, okay? So let's start off with when you were in the hospital.
Yes, people have been giving me inspirational documents all along. And I came across these 2 documents, and I said, wow. And so the doctors, when they came in my room, they had put up EJ, the director of happiness. And when they come in, they say, what is that all about? And, you know, I'd run my mouth and tell them. And then I decided the way that the St. Joseph treated me, I need to let them know how I feel. And so when I found this document, I use it, have been using it all the years. I even use it today to a young volunteer out there in the South section.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I say, look, you have impressed me and I want to share something with you. But unlike just reading the document, I want you to look me in the eye and read this out loud, because if you're reading this out loud, the brain is doing something internally. And if you like it, I will initial it. But there's a catch. If you like it, it's a gift from me to you, which means you cannot allow a mortal human being to touch this paper until you laminate it.
Really?
And then you can share it with everybody.
Sure.
But as a gift, so
can you hold that up maybe for the camera? Here?
yes.
Like,
Do I need to hire?
Well, no. And maybe you can even read some of those things. Some of them, it's all meaningful for you, I'm sure. But
Okay, and so I have them look me in the eye.
yeah.
Before pandemic, you know, I could see that smile. And it goes like this. Happy New Year, 2023 and beyond. The most important relationship you can have is one with yourself. Until you learn to love yourself first, only then can you fall in love with others in any relationship, as friends or otherwise. Remember, you are a unique gift to this planet. Therefore, you've already been validated. The only person that can validate you is the person in the mirror. Sounds like Michael Jackson. Anyway, before you turn to leave, compliment yourself. Understand, when you wake up each new day, it is a miracle and the most positive start of your day. Best regards, EJ, the Director of Happiness.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had veterans cry.
Yeah.
They can't even get past the first paragraph. Of course, I love reading this, having ladies read this to me, because
Sure.
they always give me a hug, you know. And the guys hug me too, but you know, I like that part.
Yeah.
And then this part, it's called The Process for Life. Now, they don't have to read this out loud to me because it's part of the total package. But it says, do a little more than you're paid to, give a little more than you have to, try a little harder than you want to, aim a little higher than you think possible, and give a lot of thanks to your faith, health, family, and friends. That makes sense?
It does.
So I would like to honor the three of you a copy.
We will be
But
honored.
keep in mind,
Yeah.
it is in this hospital, in corporations, it's all over the place. And this one guy, when I was at Bill Danger's office, he read this, he said, EJ, I didn't know I had to love myself. He'd been in jail and so we embrace,
Sure.
you know. And so if I can bring a touch of positivity through this, anyway, everybody gets a copy after our initial.
It's a wonderful credo. That's for
But
sure.
when I say it's a gift from me to you, That means if another person touched the paper, they can touch it after it's laminated. I had a married couple, and I had the wife read it, and I said, now, can't let another human being touch it. Her husband said, honey, let me see. Didn't you hear what he said? Not to let a mortal human being touch this paper. So that, to me, from me, is the most powerful tool. I don't have, what else do I have to add? So thank you for allowing me to talk
Thank you.
about
I'm
this.
glad you were able to share that. So is this when you got then the Director of Happiness title? Where did that come from?
Great question.
Yeah. Gotta hear that.
I used to sell dairy products, Diamond D Dairy, up in Longmont somewhere, first person of color doing that. And I'd go to restaurants, hotels, and stuff like this. And I met a gentleman named Joe Biggs. He was a chef and he was a classical singer. So Joe said, EJ, I heard about you doing sales and marketing, and I'm going to leave the restaurant business and start a catering company. And I want you to do the marketing. I said, well, I like to run my mouth, but if you're going to do a catering company, I want to get a bonus. Whatever you fix, I want a plate to take home. So he said, oh, no problem. I said, well, make me a business card and I'll get started, because I was already talking to restaurants and managers and offices. So he comes back with this card saying, EJ, the Director of Happiness. I said, hey, man, wait a minute. I want to be the Director of Sales and Marketing. What? That doesn't make any sense. He said, EJ, think about it. When you share your thoughts and stuff with people, they always come away with a smile. That's over 20 something years ago. And everybody, not everybody, but people say, can I be the Assistant Director of Happiness? Or they say, I love that title. This man, he created something in me. You're talking about a marketing tool? Man. So people have come into my life that have enhanced my life as opposed to destroying or minimizing. And so I've been blessed. And I know who's controlling that, and it ain't me. But that's how that came about.
Well, good. I was really curious as to how that came about.
Oh,
It's
man.
it's an interesting story for sure.
Yes.
But I think you've got a great attitude that you have brought apparently throughout your life. You've obviously been through a lot of stuff as well. But how you deal with it is so crucial.
Well, that's the key. It's how you deal with it.
Right.
And when people say, well, I can't, I say, hold it. I don't want to hear the word can't.
Right.
I don't think the word can't should even be in the dictionary, So anyway, but from that, 2000, this is my favorite. I've talked about the Soldiers Angels mobile food event. I've been doing that since 2014. 2015, you can see I'm running with 2 bags.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing this flash. So I'm running to each car with they get 5 bags apiece. Well, the table I was with, they give me 2 and I'd run. And so somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, sir, can I talk to you? I said, yes, I'll be right back. So I'm taking the bag to the car. And he said, my photographer has been taking pictures of you. I say, me? I saw the flash, but I thought it was, somebody else. So they said, how old are you? And I told them I was 70 something. How are you moving that fast? I said, I've been practicing all my life. So they put me in the Denver Post, 2015, 4 months after I joined the Soldiers Angels Mobile Food event. And this is a picture of me
Yeah.
running with 2 bags. Is that great? And so that started one of my things. And so I love them. Imagine, I've been doing this since 2014, 200 families, their children, they give me gifts, food. I mean, some of them get emotional. And there's 5 tables. I'm the 6th table. What I do is I take the voucher off the windshield, the plastic voucher. So people get out of the car, and I ask everyone, I don't care if you volunteer just one time, because I know once you experience the emotions, you will want to do it again. Lockheed Martin is the head volunteer, and Natalie is in charge of it. And when I come in, there's 6 tables. I also volunteer with VOA, Volunteers of America, because each Wednesday before each event, once a month, we put together hygiene kits, socks for the family. So that's 6 tables. And to see, and they have the kids. So I always wear my Disney tie for the kids because they, compliment. But volunteering has just re-energized my energy. I look forward to it, and people don't know, when you do something not expecting a paycheck, that is the greatest gift you can give another human being, to volunteer and lift them up. And in this case, I do that food thing, and then I start doing the coffee thing over here, and they are Soldiers Angels Mobile Food personnel. So it's a family thing, man, and we're not asking anybody to pay for anything,
Right.
So that's my passion. And then I might sing a song or two while they come up in the car, and then they say, well, EJ, you're slowing things down. I say, okay, I'll shut my mouth.
Well, you've received a number of awards here. Do you mind showing some of the other ones
Oh,
here?
absolutely. I will
You've got
be.
a national award. You've got a local award for the Everyday Hero kind of thing.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I do want to talk about a group. There's 5 of us, and this is at City and County Denver had a proclamation dedicated to our group, and it was read, and Mr. Lopez was the speaker at the council. So I'm just proud of these guys. They have the same vision and feel that I have. But if I may be, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just to the camera there.
Oh, right
There
here.
you
go. Okay.
All righty.
I like knowing that it's going to be edited. Okay, so the Channel 7 Everyday Hero. Oh, right in front of my face. Now, this.
You want to hold that up here? Let's get a shot of that.
Oh,
See
okay.
what that is.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, this as I said, I used to volunteer at Bill Daniels Veteran Services Center. So on this particular day, Mike Kaufman and Colonel or somebody else was handing out these lapel buttons to Vietnam veterans. And I had the tray of, it was for 12 or 13 veterans. And Mike would take, I'd take a button, hand it to Mike, and he'd pin it on the veterans. So when we got through with that, I sat down with the veterans. I was in the front row, and they said, EJ, could you come back up here? So I was thinking, well, we just finished, Now, Channel 7 hero gentleman, the TV station was there, videotape.
Right.
And they called me out and saying, I thought we were finished. So I look over at, where's Mitch? I got his picture over there. He's got this behind his back, and I'm looking. I got up there and I said to the families, the veteran, their families, I said, this is the first time anybody got me to shut my mouth. And then a few tears came down, man.
Yeah.
You can go to Channel 7 2018 archive
Yeah.
and pull it up. But they presented this to me, but I recovered.
Yeah.
I said, let me tell you something. Here we are honoring the Vietnam veterans that came back to their own country, spit on, talked about, all of this, and some of the people that spit on them weren't even in the military. So why do they have the right to say anything? So my suggestion is when you see a veteran, you talk up to them, not down to them. And of course, everybody, the veteran will applaud and everything. But this was total surprise,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of it. Also, I'm photographed here with the honor bell.
Right.
I was at Bill Daniels, and they pulled up at this truck, and they said, hey, would you like to have a picture with us with this? So I love that. They said, you gotta wear gloves though, because we don't want anything,
Sure.
So that was one of the awards, and I'm just 2018, so proud. And I put the video on my Facebook so that I can share with
Really?
different people.
Sure.
Then, as I mentioned, I was in the HUD VASH program.
Right. There you go.
And thank you. And so they told me, EJ, you can only have, I think it was 23 of us graduating.
Yeah.
And they say you could only have one person, and we want you to be the featured speaker, so you can only speak for 10 minutes. And I said, I can't say my name in 10 minutes. But anyway, this was, and you got this one too. And so, as you can see, I had a few more than the one that she, and he was the head of the Veterans Upward Bound Pre-College Program, Mr. Chavez. And here I am, and everybody's point. Now, the lady that tried to limit my conversation, it took 45 minutes, as a matter of fact. And then I had she got in the picture. She said, I'm gonna get in the picture too. So this was and Mr. Chavez, when we had the graduation banquet, he announced, and this was a total surprise to me. It says, it's Dean K. Phillips Award, Mesa County Veterans Upward Bound 2013-2014, Metropolitan State University of Denver, presented to E.J. Walton And he added, E.J. Walton's award citation is as follows. Our final award goes to the veteran participant who has distinguished himself among his peers not only by his academic, but also by taking a leadership role in the class and making himself available to his classmates who were having difficulty with the coursework. The award is named for Captain Dean K. Phillips, who was very active in creating, implementing many veterans assistance organizations in Colorado during the 1970s. Captain Phillips epitomized the United States military philosophy of no one gets left behind. It makes sure his fellow veterans' needs are being addressed during a very tremendous time in our country's political history. After completing the Veterans Upward Bound program, he was motivated by his successful accomplishment and has now become incensed with encouraging others to participate. I believe nearly everyone in this room has had an interaction with him at one point or another. You'll know what I mean when I say one just cannot help but feel inspired by his presence. The award is well deserved for Mr. E.J. Walton.
Wow, quite an honor.
I
Great
mean,
honor. Yeah. That's great, EJ.
so a total surprise too. But then
You
I volunteer with Soldiers Angels Mobile Food Event.
right?
So here they have 3 plaques, and it was about 90 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, EJ, could you come up here? And what's this all about? So I go up there, and they said, we want to give you another award. So I said, oh, cool.
All right. The proclamation.
Now this is, I talked to you about the city and county of Denver.
Yeah.
This was the proclamation. And May 14, 2018, 2 days before my birthday.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just us doing something for our veterans.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
yeah,
But then,
these are great. Yeah, no, and well deserved.
oh, thank you. You know, I never knew that a shy kid from the projects
Yeah, from the
would
south
be,
side of Chicago.
thank you, be running my mouth all over the city and people giving me awards for running my mouth.
It's come a long way, baby.
Oh, thank you. But then, again, back to Soldiers Angels, excuse me. See, I get so excited. I like to try and, my mother would be smacking me if I didn't have my stuff right. So they said, EJ, we got a pen, which is this pen, and it is the President's Volunteer Service Award is presented to E.J. Walton Gold by the Corporation for National and Community Service in recognition and appreciation for his continue to strengthen our nation and communities through volunteer service, 2018.
That's amazing. That's
So,
this is a really important one. It's so presidential citation. Yeah, no, that's a real
well,
honor. They took you to Washington for that, didn't they?
oh no, I had never been to Washington
Oh, okay,
until
I thought-
last week. But the thing of it is, when they gave me that, and then here, it said, Congratulations on receiving the President's Volunteer Service Award. On behalf of a grateful nation, I thank you for your service to your fellow Americans, those most in need. Through your dedicated service, you have ensured the continuation of America's unparalleled commitment to improving the lives of others. Over this past year, you have served as a model of the American spirit. Your many hours of service have strengthened the bonds of cooperation, trust that bring people together, while helping to address some of the greater challenges of our times. One of our nation's greatest strengths remains the compassion of our everyday citizens who, who so willingly of themselves and their lives to benefit others. Each generation of hardworking, kind-hearted volunteers helped to write a new chapter of American greatness, and our nation is proud of your commitment to this honorable tradition. As we reflect on your many acts of kindness and charity over this past year, our nation draws inspiration from those who answer the call to help their communities and our nation. With your continued efforts to build on our nation's culture of service, America will proudly remain a land of freedom and opportunity for all. Thank you for your enduring commitment to serving our community and our nation. I trust that you will continue to work for the betterment of others and even stronger future for the American people. And it's signed by,
I know.
anyway, it's signed by the person that was in the White House in 2018.
Go ahead.
when
Say,
they
say it,
present,
EJ. Say it. Even show it here. We got
oh yes,
this is
definitely.
Donald J. Trump.
And you know what's so ironic? I'm sitting there thinking, not exactly positive thoughts, but I said, I accept this award only on the premise of the White House and its tradition, not the person in the White House. And they all cracked up. EJ, I said, why would I turn down an award? You know? Oh man.
Yeah, you think he wrote
so
that?
I mean, I started laughing, and they said, EJ, where do you come up with this stuff? I said, I don't know, but you know,
Just speaking from your heart.
yeah, no one controlled EJ's mouth, you know.
Except EJ.
But that was the highlight. And so all of this follows. And I'm saying to veterans, fall in love with yourselves. Find something that you want to do to give. I have this little thing here. And again, people give me stuff. And it just says, welcome the new year with faith, hope, and love. Faith makes everything possible. Hope makes everything work. Love makes everything beautiful. May you have all three and more every moment of every day in the month of, in this case, 2020
Right.
and beyond.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, I'm just excited. May I brag about something else?
Sure, sure.
Ooh, EJ. So, I guess the word gets around that, hey, we know this guy that like to run his mouth. Why don't we invite him? So I read, this was Saturday, February 19th. And it's called Profile and Service. So what the Elks Club in Littleton, what they do is they get a veteran once a month to come out and do a presentation. And this was my thing. It says, it says, E.J. Walton, Profile of Service, Hear His Story and Honor Their Service. And it talks about me being a Boy Scout, second in command of Civil Air Patrol for 5 years. I mentioned I had to stay in high school an extra year.
Yeah, right.
Air Force from 1958 to 1962. Team leader, was trained to blind type up to 65 words a minute, intercepting Morse code. Sang with the Air Defense Air Force Chorale Group. First person of color hired by Xerox Corporation. Volunteers for Bill Daniels Veteran Services Center, Soldiers Angels Mobile Food Events, Veterans Upward Bound Pre-College Program, Volunteers of America, and Senior Support Services. And so I said, wow, I'm like a rock star in my own time. I said, what? So
Right.
anyway, I was there to support other veterans as they come once a month.
Sure.
And then they said, EJ, can you stay because we have what we call open mic? And I said, wait a minute, I've been coming here for almost a year and you just telling me about open mic? I thought I was part of the family. So they said, we want you to stay. So I said, okay, I'll stay, but I'd like to sing. And they said, cool, okay, we'll do that. So I've got a document I'd like to show you if
Sure.
that's okay.
Real quick, we only have about 10 minutes left.
Oh, got what?
Because of battery issues.
Oh, I can come back anytime.
How about we do like a rapid fire, 10, 30 seconds each?
Okay. Let me
How
go
about a shot of your
to.
family here? How about your first family, whatever you got that one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you.
Why don't we end with that?
Yeah, that is perfect because they are so important. Did I talk about that?
Not yet, so this is the last, you wanna,
Because we only have 10 minutes of battery left.
Oh, okay.
So let's wrap it up with your first family. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm just going to, this is my first family.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Mention this
okay, do I have time now? 30 seconds
yeah,
you
you have
said?
time.
Oh, okay.
30 seconds. Yeah.
I'm just going to do, I'll leave that.
All right. So we'll segue here to. So what about your family? You want to share with us some pictures of your family here? In
I
Tulsa?
don't have any, I was in the shelter twice.
Yeah.
All of my stuff was in storage. I didn't have the money to pay for them. I lost all of my stuff.
And
So I don't have any pictures of any families, but the memory is right here.
sure.
In the meantime, I want to say a little bit about the Denver Art Society. They have a monthly event, and they had their inaugural Black History Month event at the Denver Art. Sorry. This was at the Denver Art Society,
Yeah.
and I had talked to Frank and his wife 3 years ago for the pandemic, and they said, EJ, we'd like you to be the special speaker. I said, what? And this is the first time?
Yeah.
So I said, yes. So September 25th, 2023, 6 to 10, I was the featured speaker. And then I'm looking at the ladies, and I said, ladies, let me stop running my mouth. I'd like to sing a Nat King Cole love song to you. So I sang Nature Boy. There was a boy, very strange. And so that was pretty cool. But then I want to end by saying that there are a lot of people in your life that support you, whether you're up, down, sideways. And I call this my first family. And here is Melissa. I met her. She was an engineer for the city of Westminster when I was selling furniture. And she got laid off. I got her to take over the company, work for the company. She ended up buying the company. She's celebrating 32 years as CEO and president of the company. Doc is 20 years in the Air Force. my best friend, his daughter. I got a picture of her when she was 2. She's been queen and all kinds of stuff. She works in Washington, D.C. now. Antonio, he is a hip hop videographer.
Really sure.
I'm so proud of my family, but when I was up and down, they were here. And then this is the latest picture of them, and I just owe them. We've never had an argument, a disagreement since early 2008.
No.
I think I might have met her in 70. Anyway, they are precious. And they remind me of my family, of how they're organized militarily,
Sure.
thinking. And of course, him being 20 years in the Air
Right,
Force,
right.
that's my man. So there's a lot I could share with you. And I tell you what, call me anytime. No, the only person that controls my mouth is me,
Okay.
and I'll be able. And thank you very kindly. I
Thank you,
appreciate
AJ.
it.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
God. Okay, I think
Did we make 30 seconds?
Yeah, we got it.
we did it, man. How was that? Worked okay
Oh
for you?
man,
Huh?
I mean, I'm having fun.